Rodri!
You see Rodri, and you see a player worth his weight in gold today. A defensive midfielder by trade. He's not only made the center of the pitch his own, but he's become the one man who'll bail his team out in the most clutch situations. It's astounding how often he's done it recently. But let's start at the beginning. Consider subscribing to our channel. It's free and helps us a ton. Thanks. Rodrigo Hernandez Cascante, or Rodri, was born in Madrid, Spain. Being from the city with a rich football heritage meant it was inevitable for him to fall in love with this beautiful sport. Yet, from a very young age, he took education very seriously. He would often play football in his free time after school. Education had been so important to Rodri that he completed his degree in business management while playing and winning with Manchester City. He earned his first shot at playing football when he passed his trials and earned himself a spot for his local club, Rayo Majadahonda, at just the age of 10. Just a year on, he aced another trial, this time for the youth team of Atletico Madrid. He was part of the same class as the brothers Lucas and Theo Hernandez, with whom he'd eventually share a locker room at Atletico Madrid. The three earned the nickname of the family, as they were always together. But while Theo and Lucas excelled, Rodri did not. The club cited his lack of physical strength as the reason for his poor performances. This eventually led the academy head at the time, Julian Munoz, to transfer Rodri away from Atletico Madrid to Villarreal. This was specifically painful to Rodri, as Atletico Madrid was his boyhood club, the club he grew up supporting and dreamed of playing for. But it did not deter him. During his time in Villarreal, he grew strong and became a technically sound player. In fact, his growth meant he had cracked the Villarreal first team in just 2 years of being there. He made his senior debut for Villarreal B in 2015, and within the same year, he made his debut for the first team of Villarreal, starting in a 2-0 win over Huesca in Copa del Rey. In the next 2 seasons, he had established himself as a first-team regular for Villarreal, making over 70 appearances across all competitions. And by 2018, he had caught the eye of his boyhood club, Atletico Madrid. For around 25 million euros, Rodri was back at the club of his childhood. And his first game back, he helped Atletico Madrid win 4-2 against Real Madrid in the UEFA Super Cup, securing the trophy. The 2018-19 season showed the world what Rodri was capable of, as Atletico Madrid finished second behind Barcelona in La Liga. But it also meant that his time in Madrid was already ending. After a great season, it was apparent big clubs would be circling around him. One such club was Manchester City, who were preparing for life after Fernandinho. In July 2019, Rodri became the biggest transfer for Manchester City at the time, who paid £62.5 million to acquire his services. And thus began the journey of Rodri from a potentially great player to one of the greatest midfielders of modern generation. Now, I'm sure as soon as you hear Rodri in the same sentence as Manchester City, all his pivotal goals and moments come to your mind. But Rodri's life at Manchester City was far from perfect at the beginning. Maybe it was adapting to Guardiola's system, maybe it was the huge price tag that put pressure on him, or maybe it was the pressure of filling the gigantic Fernandinho shoes in the middle of the pitch. But Rodri didn't have the greatest first season at Manchester City. At the time, very few people thought he'd become the player he is today. The 2019-20 season didn't go to plan for Manchester City either, as after consecutive Premier League titles, they finished second behind Liverpool by 18 points. He did win his first trophy with Manchester City, helping City beat Aston Villa in the EFL Cup final 2-1, in which he scored the second goal, securing a third consecutive EFL trophy for Manchester City. However, after the difficulties of the first season with Manchester City, he began coming into his own, combining his physicality and technical prowess to dominate the middle of the pitch. the 2021 season saw Manchester City make their way into their first ever Champions League final. But in a strange decision, Rodri was left out of the starting 11 in the final of the Champions League against Chelsea. It showed in City's performance when City failed to control the midfield in any effective way. The difficulties were compounded by a De Bruyne injury in the 60th minute. City went on to lose the final 1-0. Rodri did end up winning his first ever Premier League with Manchester City this season and also won the 4th consecutive EFL Cup by beating Tottenham Hotspurs in the final. Little did we know that Rodri's influence on this Manchester City team was only going to grow from here. Rodri was proving to be an exceptional defensive midfielder, magnificent with ball at his feet, technically proficient and a great passer while being excellent without the ball with his tackling and interceptions. But the 21-22 season saw Rodri unlock another potential in himself, being a goal threat. This season showed what we know Rodri of being today, a clutch goal scorer. He scored 7 goals in the Premier League this season, his highest tally in a season thus far in his career. But the most important of his goals came on the final day of the Premier League season. Going into the final day, City were a point ahead of Liverpool and needed to win to ensure the league title. But by the 69th minute, they had fallen behind 2-0. However, in a 6-minute blitz, City scored 3 goals, of which the second goal had come from a Rodri shot from just outside the box in the 78th minute, ensuring City won their second league title on the trot and their 4th in 5 seasons. The legend of Rodri was on the rise and was only going to get more and more solidified in the next season. The 2022-23 season probably saw the most famous goal scored by Rodri in the history of Manchester City, probably only rivaled by that Aguero goal. After the heartbreak of the last 2 seasons in Champions League, Manchester City made it all the way to the final of the Champions League for the second time in 3 seasons. And this time, they made it count, beating Inter 1-0 in the final. The solitary goal scored by none other than Rodri himself. This final was of immense pressure applied by Inter, but in the 68th minute, Rodri came clutch. By now it was established that when Rodri scored, the probability of it being one of the most important goals were very high. City ended up winning the continental treble, the second club from England to do so. But this also set into motion one of the longest running streaks in modern football. The 2023-24 season saw Rodri scale new heights as a goal threat, as he ended up with 9 goals and 14 assists across all competitions, 8 of those goals coming in the Premier League. This once again included a crucial goal on the final day of the Premier League when City and Arsenal were engaged in a heated title run. This season also showed how important Rodri was, as City's record without Rodri was abysmal. City lost 3 games in the Premier League, 1 in the EFL Cup, and the common theme in all of those was Rodri's absence. In fact, since February 2023, Rodri went on an invincible streak, only broken in the final of the FA Cup 2024 against Manchester United. During this time, Rodri played 74 matches across the Premier League, Champions League, FA Cup and League Cup, winning 58 and drawing 16, surpassing Paolo Maldini and Demetrio Albertini's record of 73 games at AC Milan. He has now won 4 Premier League titles on the trot, becoming part of the first team ever to achieve such a feat in the Premier League. His great performances aren't limited to just club football either. He has been instrumental in Spain's resurgence as an international force. Having played for Spain at the under-16, under-19 and under-21 levels, he made his competitive debut as a 59th minute substitute for Sergio Busquets in the 6-0 win over Croatia on 11th September 2018. Kind of poetic to see someone like Busquets replaced by Rodri. After the international retirement of Sergio Busquets on 16th December 2022, Rodri succeeded him as Spain's midfield pivot. The 2023 UEFA Nations League saw Rodri come into his own as Spain's talisman in the midfield. He helped Spain win the Nations League and was named the player of the match in the final as well as the player of the tournament. At this very moment, he is involved in La Roja's campaign for Euro 2024, and at the time of the making of this video, he has helped his team reach the finals, making it their first major international tournament final since 2012. So, how is Rodri as good as he is? Well, for starters, he's a physically imposing midfielder who's intelligent on and off the ball. His passing and his ball carrying capabilities is equally matched by his tackling and interceptions. Over his career, he evolved from a stout holding midfielder to an out-and-out defensive stalwart in Diego Simeone's side to a high-performing counter-pressing defensive midfielder who also presents an attacking threat under Guardiola's system. He is currently the most influential pivot in the Premier League. Since coming to Manchester City, he's adapted his game to recover balls high up the pitch and launching counter-attacks. He's an effective deep-lying playmaker as well with his passing vision. His physical attributes have also allowed him to play as a ball-playing centre-back on occasions, particularly when Luis Enrique played him there during the 2022 World Cup. His influence is such that his absence from the team makes even a club like Manchester City vulnerable. At the moment, Rodri is considered the best midfielder in the world, and for a very good reason. In March 2024, his Manchester City manager Pep Guardiola described him as the best midfield player currently in the world by far. Even former Man United player Rio Ferdinand agreed that Rodri is in the conversation for the best defensive midfielder in the Premier League history. He is undroppable in the current Manchester City team and equally influential for La Roja. At the time of the making of this video, Spain is in the final of Euro 2024. And who knows, maybe Rodri will add yet another clutch goal in the final and guide his team to glory. Thank you for watching. Like if you liked it, share if you find it worthy, and subscribe for more content like this. This is Salty Football.